Yes, so Hairless here. We have VoicePlay's most recent release. This is a Patreon request, so thank you for this one. This is called Classical Chaos. It sees the characters from In the Hall of the Mountain King returning. That was my second most recent VoicePlay reaction, actually. So they should be fresh in my mind. We have Rachel Potter joining. This is my first time seeing her. This is a Lane arrangement. It comprises of music from 12 very well-known bits of classical music. If you don't know any of these by name, I can assure you probably will when you hear them. A couple in this list are maybe not as famous as the others, but in any case they all have very, very recognisable moments in them, and I imagine it's these moments that are probably what we're going to be hearing. I won't go through them all one by one, but they do all trigger different memories within me. I associate them with films or adverts. Having played some myself, you know, these bits of music, they are just everywhere. Looking at this list, a lot of them are quite jokey or full of character. Let's just say I can see why Lane has chosen these works in particular. For the same reason, I don't think this is going to flow that well or that naturally. If you bang together these vastly different works, I don't see how it can, unless you change things like the tempo, the key, etc. But this is fine. I don't think they're supposed to flow naturally. I doubt it's supposed to be some lovely, calm, flowy bit of music to send you to sleep, just like In the Hall of the Mountain King wasn't. That was more of caricature music. Please do check out my reaction to that if you haven't already. Card will be up here. Without further ado, let's get straight into this one. Okay, I don't feel bad about pausing because no music has started yet. So this music that we see here, this is the Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor. And from the list, this is the first bit of music we should be hearing. In my opinion, this piece of music, the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, it has one of the best endings of all time. One of the nicest, musically speaking, endings. If you don't know how it ends, well, it's given me the urge to play it. Just the ending. Let's hop to the piano. It should be played in the organ with a third voice at the bottom doing the pedals. I only have two hands, so we'll be playing on the piano in organ mode. If VoicePlay ended like that, with the same piece they started with, and this particular ending, I would die a happy man. Alright, let's start again.
Da 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 da. Bum 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 bum.
They all want a piece of that book. Okay, they've changed now into the Beethoven. Let's do our first pause here. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. The opening. Da 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 da. This is the first time I've heard them do it in a different key to the original song. Shock, I know. But there's a reason. It's so they can end in the same key that the next piece, the Mozart, begins.
Bum
So I think I can let them off. It's all very technical by Lane. Of course, we've got great special effects and the set and the costumes. As usual, and as we saw with In the Hall of the Mountain King, I like our introduction to Rachel and the deadpan look in her eyes as she comes in. She has a theatrical background, I believe. I quickly googled her beforehand. She performed in Broadway, and you can really hear this different style of singing that she has, at least to the other women I've seen sing with VoicePlay. I guess I'll hear more of her as we make our way through these 12 pieces. Obviously, VoicePlay's versions here seem much more modern, so how or why is that? The original song, the Mozart, it's very, very well structured. Rhythmically, regularity is at its core. The backing voices here have kind of funked up rhythms. Slight syncopations, the harmony is the same, so it's the rhythms that really give it this modern feeling. And of course, the beat. It's funny because I've probably heard a million classical music remixes, all of them with beats. Some good, some not so good. In fact, the first ever video of mine to get 1,000 views, that was such a video. Card will be up here if you're interested. It's one of my first videos, much shorter, only about 6 minutes in total. I don't go into much depth or detail. It was a techno remix of a choral song. Anyway, back to VoicePlay. After that, we get a very nice transition into Bizet's Habanera from Carmen. We go from G to D minor, which enhances this sliding down effect of these top two notes. Jeff, he slides down to the bottom D to start that famous bass motif. I'd love to know how many layers there are of the various Lane sound effects. Here, for example, these winds, all these magical noises. I'm going to go ahead and say the Mark Tree sound effect, you know, those hanging chime instruments, is not Lane. I really do think the beat works so well here with that bass line. It is a modern bass line. Its influence is obvious, for example, in the recent Eurovision winner.
Welcome to the show, let everybody know.
Bassline obvious chromatically descending melody. I did a video on that recently if you're interested. Then Rachel enters, more in line with the original Carmen, but her voice is a different style. I think we can definitely hear the theatre side of it. The bit that is coming now, who does the high bit? Is it Ellie? It would make sense to be Rachel for various reasons, but in the video she isn't singing, and if this isn't her, this is going to be multi-tracking because of how many other parts we're hearing. Then the second time we hear it, as it's a bit higher, it's a lot less serious, it's less pitch accurate, it's more comical, it sounds more of a struggle. I don't think one of those notes actually was the true note. I'm really conflicted about who's singing this. It could be Rachel because the tone is smooth and it's a natural sounding higher voice. But also the comical element of it fits with the narrative of a man struggling to get up there. You'd think this would be an easy thing to figure out, but throw them all in some crazy creature costumes and all logic just goes straight out the window. On the comical side of things, just before that we get a bit of this kind of growly voice from Ellie. And then after is Lane. So from Ellie's little growl, that's a kind of hint at the humour dials are going to be turned up, or turning down the serious levels. And that's where we got to just before the end of Carmen. There's one line that we get here. That really stands out to me because it's changing the harmony ever so slightly. If we listen to a version of the original, let's go with this Katherine Jenkins version. We hear those obviously sustained notes underneath not moving, really feeding into the dissonance, rather than here where they're moving with Rachel. Alright, into Beethoven we go, so let's carry on.
La 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 la.
It's mental health pause time. I'm not even going back over to analyse it at this point. It's just to see it again because there's so much going on. So from Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 in C minor, they are starting a semitone down. This is the true key. This is because Carmen ends with a D major chord. So starting on this note is the natural one to pick, because you actually have those two notes from this chord, and that's as close as possible as they can get without moving anything to the original, which would be. We get some nice lane effects here. They're very intense, aren't they?
La 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 la.
Especially as the original is so famous and of course without any sort of beat. It's funny because one of my favourite disco tracks is called A Fifth of Beethoven because it uses Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. It starts with the same opening and then it goes into this. So in that, the opening is unchanged, untouched. That is arguably the most iconic bit of that whole symphony. I feel VoicePlay having the beat here, it really sets the scene of what's to come. This rapid percussion section underneath everything else.
La 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 la.
And it also really exaggerates the end of each of those two opening sections. Bum, 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 bum. We do get a low note by Jeff. As I've mentioned before, I'm not going to comment on every low note he does, but he goes down to an F-sharp 1. And it comes at a great time. It contrasts Rachel's really quite powerful, blended and direct voice. She has a very distinctive voice. Yeah, very distinctive. What happens next? Well, we get Lane, the thief of a carrot man. He's stolen the book. We've moved on to Strauss, and it started very slowly, very calmly, very gingerly, if you'll pardon the pun. Yeah, musically slow, careful almost. I love the textural build-up that happens as a consequence of that. The backing parts going do, 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 and even dum, 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 dum. It's a great part of the arrangement, how things are just gradually building up, keeping the calm sentiment, but individual parts are not calm. Here, there, Lane. He's using that same voice that he used in the Hall of the Mountain King when he was potion drunk. I think there was a bubble coming out after he drank the potion. And then after that, it's like this epiphany moment. It's very interesting here because the backing oohs are really raw sound, way rawer than we might expect to hear in a VoicePlay studio video performance. If we listen again, listen out for the part singing this note. No vibrato, straight sound, but the timbre, it seems, in my head I use textural words when I think of sounds, describing sounds. So here I'm imagining coarse or rough like sandpaper. That part I pointed out, I think it's Caesar, his voice especially. I I wonder why they've chosen to do that here. I personally think it's because of the musical texture around it. They're making it as varied as possible. Rachel's theatrical voice, that's the prominent voice here, very distinctive in its sound. Lane's voice, it's weak here in his head voice. You know, it's shaking, moving between the notes, almost he can't even sustain the note. Contrast to that powerful raw sound I'm talking about. And then Jeff, he's repeating the same note, like a double bass. Dum, dum, really making that sound. So we get a real mix of sounds here. Then after that, there was a really nice bit that I liked. They changed their vowel sounds as they moved down. I think it works naturally with the melodic change, especially because a few of them, they're moving into their chest voice as they go down. And there's also a nice trill part that we hear. It's so subtle, it's barely noticeable, but it really adds to the springy Straussian waltz feel. And that leads into another comical bit, the bit. That reminds me of one of the first bits of a cappella I ever really kind of fell in love with. I just love the different sounds we're able to get from our voices just by making little changes, little adjustments. I said in my recent Dimash video that the human voice is definitely the most versatile natural instrument there is. Alright, then, for the next piece. Straight up, I was expecting this. So this was definitely a surprise, this sudden energy. Then a bit further on, very humorous. I'd really like these powers, being able to take someone's voice. Imagine being able to steal someone's singing voice. I could be VoicePlay all by myself. I actually think Rachel's voice really suits this rising arpeggiated section really well. These dum-dum-dum sounds that we hear typically in the basses, and then at the top of the next arpeggio, she has the slightly open sounding note too. Alright, let's carry on with our mission into space, I believe. That's why you always keep the last page on you, I guess. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a cool arrangement, isn't it? Great idea for one as well. No doubt in my mind, Lane had an absolute blast of a time arranging that one. Well, nothing left to do other than just go over some final bits from that last section. I mean, yeah, that change into the can-can. So good. I think it took me a second or so to process what had happened. It's the most suspenseful part of the Strauss. And then the can-can, it's just the complete opposite. Fun, high energy, all the others, they're goofing around her, and in turn she's becoming more operatic and fed up, of course. The can-can, it just makes you bob up and down, doesn't it? The offbeat singing as well, it's very difficult to do, very fun. I just noticed Caesar's actually doing the can-can there. What I was going to say, the spell's gone wrong. So what have they done? They've changed to the parallel minor. So we're in the same key, it's just the minor version instead of major. And then how do we transition into the next piece? Well, it's this romantic special effect love blow from Ellie. It's a nice cover for a sudden change. This is the kind of thing I had in mind in the introduction when I said I wasn't sure how well it's going to naturally flow. The Romeo and Juliet part though, it's, yeah, really nice chordal music. How romantic. Again, we hear a part alternating between two notes, similar to how we heard earlier. And then comes Night on Bald Mountain, Night on My Mountain. That's good, isn't it? It's definitely as tense as it should be. Harmonically speaking, it's the intervals between the la 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 parts. They really contribute to the harmonic tension here. It's funny because I didn't know this was actually a piece of music until I watched the film Saturday Night Fever, which had a song called Night on Disco Mountain in it. That film also had a fifth of Beethoven in, reworking these classical pieces into disco variants. I think it's great. And I liked the transition out of that. Who knows what they're chanting? And then just after that, all I say is oofed. Right, and then we get the mashup section to end. Now, I'm not sure how subtle Lane has decided to go, like putting little segments of some of the melodies from some of the pieces into the backing parts that aren't that obvious. I'd need to take many listens to really dissect it and figure that out. The obvious ones, though, they are the Beethovens. We've got the Hairless going into Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and then it's kind of a remix of that, it sounds like. That's the main melodic component anyway, and there were a couple of things I like about it. So the first thing is this hemi-yolo we get. 3 beats played in the space of 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. La 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 la. Why this is even more striking is because of what Beethoven does in the original music. The melodic motifs that we hear are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the stress on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But that stressed fourth beat is actually the first beat of each new bar. So really these 4-note patterns, they should be 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Some of you may say this is obvious because the stress comes on the first beat of the bar. But in music, we tend to naturally group things together, and it can easily throw us off a little bit. So hearing the hemiola here amidst all of this, yeah, I like it. Number 2, and this one is much more subtle. It's this temporary move into the major and then back out. If we listen to Jeff, he goes fine. That's part of the C minor scale, which is the key. And then if we continue the scale, C minor ends in. But if we hear the backing parts, one of them instead goes. And again. So when harmonizing with Jeff, So what this is doing is it's leaning into E flat major instead of C minor, and E flat is the relative major of C minor. So just for a short while, this very minor bit of music is transformed into major, a glimmer of hope as they're approaching the end. And Jeff's line is transformed into the first 4 notes of E flat major instead of notes 3 to 6 of C minor. And then this of course is before the realization by them of what's to come. Well, there we go. I'm going to need to listen to this. I won't put a number on it, just more times. Very cool, high production value again. And an interesting choice of 12 classical bits of music. I don't think I need to say any more, so let's leave that there. Thank you again for this request, and thank you to everyone for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community of Vote in Future Polls, you can do so by joining the YouTube membership or Patreon linked below, and I will see you next time.